Okay, we are recording. Hello, everyone. I'm Eva Marie Everson, and this is my good friend, Dan Walsh. Dan, I want to ask you, hello, I want to ask you a few questions, but my first one is going to be, how many books did you publish traditionally before you decided to go into indie publishing?
An even dozen.
An even dozen. And you
Yeah,
were with one of the bigger houses, were you
yeah,
not?
yeah.
Yep.
Revell, I guess, are considered in the top five as far as
Yeah.
size. And I
Yes.
was, obviously when I started, I didn't know the Christian. I came from the world of being a pastor, so the fiction publishing world was not my world. I didn't even know when we signed with them that that was a big deal.
Yeah.
And then obviously as years went by, we became more aware of that. So yeah, and we had some real success there. They kept giving me more contracts with eventually, I think after the third book, they offered me enough that I could actually go full time and write full time. So in
Yeah.
2010, the last nine, I was actually full time and making enough to do it full time.
Yeah. Yeah. And you've been compared to Nicholas Sparks and my favorite, Richard Paul Evans. So
Yeah,
you
that was probably the all and that whole dozen, I guess you'd say, were in that genre, so to speak, because that's how I started. And I obviously love writing those kind of books.
yeah.
I wanted to also write suspense books,
Hmm.
and that was kind of not allowed because of the branding idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I was like, yeah, okay, well, when the publishing industry started, the whole Amazon, Kindle,
Hmm.
indie started becoming a deal, a big deal. I started paying attention to some other author friends, some who had gone indie because their house went belly up,
Yeah.
not because they just made a decision and they decided to take a leap and try. And then after hearing their story and learning from them, I thought when my next contract time came around in 2014 with Revell, oddly enough, they had uh, what has now become probably my most successful series. They rejected because they didn't think it would sell, and asked if I wanted what else did I have, and I said, well, I feel, and that was kind of like the open door for me. My wife and I have been
Yes.
praying about should I make the leap, and when they turned this dog series down that I really wanted to write and thought would be successful,
Yeah.
thankfully I was right, they were wrong big time.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, I mean, I've made a small fortune that they could have shared,
Right.
uh,
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
these books. They
Well,
are,
that's
I,
yeah. So that kind of led me to my next question. It's like you were successful with Revell. You had some great titles and you won some awards, and then you made this decision to go indie. And that you kind of answered that question, like, why would you do that? Well, you had felt that urging and then
I looked
laid a
into it.
fleece out.
Yeah, I think for me, it was kind of like, had I not been full time
Yeah.
already, I don't know if I would have had the time to do the experiment the way I did. But what I did was I actually, when they turned down this one suspense novel that they loved, but they said, "Yeah, that's not who you are," but I
Right.
wanted to write that also. So I thought, well, I can publish it indie since they rejected it. My agent said, yeah, you could. So I did. That
Mhm.
book was called When Night Comes. It's become, I've had 6 books since then in that series.
Yeah.
They've done crazy well. And so
Yes.
I started writing every other, once I became indie, I started writing the sort of Nicholas Sparks type books
Right.
every other, and I would
Yes.
write the suspense novels on the other. So now it's funny. I'm just about to release my even dozen, my 12th indie
Okay.
next month.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's been and I got most of the rights back to those original,
Oh,
all but the Gary Smalley books really, from Revell. So yeah, I've been fully indie now since 2015.
that's so interesting. So then, so now you've gotten your feet are not just somewhat wet, you are up to your knees in water. What would
Yeah.
be your number one piece of advice for someone who decides they want to go indie or that they even want to start out indie?
I would say the number one piece of advice is, uh, this may seem oversimplistic, but it's write a great book,
Yeah.
because one of the problems, you and I both have this, you've been at it longer actually than me. I know you have more books than I do, but I came on the scene. My first book was 2009 with Revell, and through 2015, And in that time, prior to the whole Amazon Kindle world and indie as being a possibility, you know, and I know, nobody did quote indie.
Right.
They were called
Yeah.
Vanity Press, and there was just no way. If you
Yes.
didn't get accepted by quote one of the big guys, you just kept trying because there
Mhm.
was no outlet for your books other than them. So what that did for the writer is it put all the emphasis on writing great books, because you
Mhm.
know, if you had to get in that club, so to speak, you had to write a book that would sufficiently overwhelm them to say, here's the deal, here's the contract. And if you didn't get that, you just kept trying improving your skills to get that book that would finally they'd say yes to. Well, sadly, in a way, now the door's wide open and whosoever will can publish whatever they want.
It's
What they don't
true.
realize, though, and this I'm seeing a lot of this in the indie boards. I'm a member of a lot of Christian fiction indie boards. I see a whole lot of conversations from a very bunch of disillusioned
Mhm.
indie writers whose sales are not doing well, whose books are not selling, they're not getting good reviews or very many reviews, and they often ask me, you know, they assume that the reason I do them better than is that I had those 12 books in the front end, which I don't doubt that helped me.
Sure. Yeah.
But if it weren't for the idea that I had to hone the craft of
Right.
turning out great books
Right.
to get those awards and those, you know, whatever, that because that's what readers want. They
Right.
want to read a book they can't stop reading once they
Right.
start. That's it.
Yeah.
So if you've
Yes.
written a book like that, whether it's indie or you submit it to a house, it's
Mhm.
going to have a much better chance of being successful. And so what I think is sadly happened has been like a pendulum shift to where all writers now know they can get published. And now they're putting their emphasis not on the craft, but on things like marketing and
Yeah.
packaging and platform.
Yes.
And, you know, before they've actually written the book that would cause the
Mhm.
reader to say, I can't stop reading
This
this.
is a
Do they
good
have any
book.
more?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that
I
is
would
one of the
say
things.
put all your emphasis on writing a great book.
Yeah.
Go to the conferences and take all the classes, not on
Yes.
indie marketing, maybe one on those, all the rest
Yes.
on how do I write a
On
great book?
craft. Yes. And that's one of the things I've seen, is that I get a lot of these books across my desk, and it's like, did you have an editor?
Right.
Did you think about the dynamics of the storytelling if it's
That
fiction?
would be my second piece of
Yeah.
advice.
So
You
talk about that. So
you have
talk
to,
about the importance of editing.
yeah, I would say if you we'll put it this way, all the traditional publishing houses hire the best editors.
Mhm.
And we give awards to these people for a
Yes.
reason. They're
Yes.
critical to the success because even if you write, quote, a great book, it's still at best maybe 90%. That
Yeah.
10%, maybe 70% for some people. And that's how much the editor makes a difference.
Mhm.
And if
Yes.
you
Yeah.
skip that step or hire someone who's not really up to par
Right.
because you're trying to save a buck, it's going to
Mhm.
show.
Yeah,
It,
don't have your next door neighbor who's a seventh grade English teacher edit this book, because there is a complete and total difference in what we do as editors in the fiction world or even in the nonfiction world than what you learned in seventh grade. Those are all your rules. But then there's the
I think it's
style.
probably safe
Yeah.
to say back then when you and I
Yeah.
started, about 95% of the books submitted got rejected.
Yeah.
Now that 95% can get published. That
Yes.
doesn't mean they should. So I'm thinking the first thing you do is you hire an editor and you give them the permission to say, pretend you're an acquisition editor of a
Right.
main house, and I'm submitting this book to you. If this book is not ready to be published, tell me and tell me why.
Yes.
Don't just say, look, go fishing for compliments. And you need to give them the permission to be almost ruthless, if you will, in
Absolutely.
honesty about this, like you say, not just things like typos and grammar, but
Right.
the story quality. That does the story work? Are the characters, are the arcs,
Mhm.
work? Is the character changing too much or not enough? Or all that stuff that editors provide. You can't skip that.
Yeah, because like you said, you and I know, because we've been at this for long enough, that there are certain elements to a work of fiction that editors then look for. We look for story arc, we look for character arc, we look for the black moment, we look for the mirror moment. So it's like these are the things that we look for. And if you don't understand that, which means you did not learn the craft, if you don't understand that, then you're just putting a story on paper and making sure that your commas are in the right place and your periods are in the right place and where the quotation marks go and that kind of thing. And really, anyone can do that, but you need a professional editor. You need someone who understands
I agree.
craft.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So if someone then said, okay, I'm listening to what Dan says, I'm going to go to a conference, I'm going to learn, I'm going to take at least one workshop on indie publishing, or I'm going to, you know, find somebody who can train me in indie publishing, and we'll talk about that more in a minute. I think I'm ready to do this. What would then be the pitfalls that you would warn them against?
Uh, well, again, if you assuming you've written a great book,
Mhm.
the next question is, which direction am I going to go, traditional or indie? And in indie, you're really kind of talking this a little bit. The terms got a little bit fuzzy over the years, because does that mean self-publishing or a small independent house?
Mhm.
Uh, but really, I think that has to do a little bit with your time schedule. Like for me, because I already was full time,
Yeah.
I had the time to go for it. In my first book, I hired out mostly everything, because
Mhm.
all I was used to with Ravel was I used to joke like I was a kept man.
Yeah.
All I had to do was, as a matter of fact, I even said to them, "Is there anything you want me to do?" It says, "Write another great book."
Yes.
When I was by myself, I'm like, okay, I had to basically create the staff that I had
Mhm.
through hiring. And then what I did, because I was full time, I started learning the different things to one by one. By about the fourth book, I was doing all the things I was paying people to do.
Right.
Again, I had the time to learn. I had to go through the learning curve. So I'm even doing my own covers now. I've been doing my
Yeah.
last,
Oh, excellent.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And you've got
but
great
I think,
covers.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think the pitfalls probably are what you have to maybe assess your own aptitudes. For some people, it's all you can do if you're having a full-time job, just to write the book. And if
Mhm.
that's the case, you just need to accept that, and be willing to hire others, but make sure you get good people to do those other things. But if you have the time and the aptitude and skill,
Mhm.
because it is a business. I mean, I was you could say, CEO of a nonprofit corporation for 25 years. I had a really good head for business. So
Yes.
it wasn't like that. The business side of it scared me either. So if you're somebody who's never done business, those are the things that might cause you to lean towards, I need to find an independent
Mhm.
house who has a good staff, and maybe I won't make as much if I did it
Right.
myself, but
Right.
you probably, with their help, would be more successful.
Yes. Yeah. That's great advice. Okay. So my final question is, do you coach writers? Do you help writers?
I have a handful of times. Um, because I'm still actively, I mean, if I have a couple of movie things happening,
Mhm.
if they actually happen, I'll make enough money that I could not have to be working so hard at
Right.
producing new books. I
Right.
could do more creative things like that.
Yes.
When I've done that, I've enjoyed it. I thoroughly enjoy it.
Yeah.
But I do spend most of my time literally researching and writing my next
Yeah.
book still.
Yeah.
I need to put out 2 great books a year for
Mhm.
my income to stay healthy.
Right. Right.
And that takes up most of my time. So, but I have on occasion, like in between books and stuff like that, helped people to do that. I enjoy it. I wish I could do it
Yeah.
more.
Okay. Wonderful. So if someone wants to know more about you, where do they go?
Probably they could go to my website, which is just
Mhm.
danwalshbooks.com. They could go on Amazon maybe and Google my name. You probably find more information than you care to know.
Yeah.
Uh,
Isn't that the
I've
truth?
been surprised that over the years, I guess you get that many books and whatever. Now you go on there and
Yeah.
I'm like the first 2 pages of my name. Used to be that
Yeah.
when I started out, I'd say Dan Walsh, and I have this guy who played the flute and this other guy did
Right.
motorcycling.
Yeah.
Now I seem to kind of taken over the name on
Yeah.
the internet. But so I
That's
don't think
pretty
people have a
cool.
hard time. Yeah, but if you want to contact me, my email address is also just dan@danwalshbooks.com. So you
All
could
right.
email me. That's easy.
Excellent. Now, you and I were just talking about this. Florida Christian Writers Conference is coming up in October, and you are going to be leading a 3-hour workshop for us.
Yes, I guess on the Saturday that of the
Yes,
conference.
on Saturday. So for anyone who is listening to this, if you want to know more and you want to come to a conference where craft is what we talk about, a big part of what we talk about, but then also you can take this 3-hour course on indie publishing. Dan will be there. You can go to word-weavers.com/Florida events and find out more. Thank you, Dan, for being my guest today.
I've enjoyed it. Always enjoy being with you.
Thank you. All right. We'll see you soon.
Soon. Bye bye.
Next time.